Good morning. Welcome to day 11 of the Blossoms Sketchbook Tangle Challenge I've created for myself for the month of November. It is day 11 and we're using Harebell, which is a pattern that is deconstructed by me. And I'm going to be starting in my sketchbook with some magicals. So this is the set that I'm using, the Victorian Bouquet. And I'm going to be starting with the green in here and applying a water wash on the paper and then adding some pigment. Have to be honest, I'm not really feeling great today. If you do not know me and this is your first time stopping by, or if you know me and maybe you don't know this about me, I was diagnosed the first week of April 2024 with a rare disease called acute porphyria. And the past 48 hours, I've been having a flare up and not feeling so great. So we'll see how today goes. Art does offer some therapy for me. So I'm hoping that working in my sketchbook will offer me a little bit of relief as I'm here with you. So I'm applying the pigment into the backgrounds here and just brushing it around. I want a light background. You could have a bright one. I'm going with the light for today. So while that dries, I'm going to take some green scrapbook paper and do some cutting, some collage work here. I'm going to fold it in half so I can get two pieces at a time cut. And I'm going to cut some leaf shapes. And I'm going to place these on my page. I'm not going to glue them yet, just put some of them down, maybe vary them in sizes. So the next one I'm going to cut them a little bit thinner, these. I'm going to use my glue stick to apply glue to the back of these and stick them down. I don't apply it to my journal page because I don't want that extra glue on the surface in case I'm using other materials. I want them to be able to work on the paper. Sometimes the glue will cause some difficulties with that. I'm going to grab my paint palette and take some acrylic paints now in shades of green. And I'm also going to take a stencil and I'm going to do a little stencil work over the papers that I have. So placing my stencil down, taking a stencil brush or whatever you have, going to put a thin coat of acrylic paint in. I'm not worried about even it seeping and being super fussy. And just holding it down the best I can with my other hand. And when I have enough down, I'm gonna pick this up. And you can see I have some nice texture. It's not as flat looking. So I'm gonna do this in a few other areas as well. All right, so that gives some really pretty texture. Now I'm going to take a square white Zentangle tile, and this is where I am going to draw Harebell. Using some blue magicals, I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint the Harebell with a coat of blue. I'm going to go right outside the lines too. I'm not worried about staying inside of these Pigma micron lines. So I've chosen the indigo blue to do a little bit of shading on Harebell. However, the texture of the paper is a little rough and I'm not completely satisfied with how it's looking. So a chalk would make it a little bit smoother. So I'm going over this with a chalk pencil now, a Generals, and just making it a little smoother looking. And really it's just a preference. You might have liked it the other way better. I still feel like I'm going to need something else though. So here's a white charcoal. I'm going to add some highlights with the white charcoal. Now with the scissor, I'm going to go in and cut this out. I'm going to take some brown painted paper and tear it into a branch for my Harebell. I'm going to place this down, see where I want to place the Harebell. I'm going to play around with some additional pieces as well, with some lighter greens for leaves and maybe a few more little branches coming up from the sides. And I'm going to glue these down once I figure out my positioning. I still want something else with the Harebell. So I'm going to play a little bit more, taking my neocolors to add a little bit more texture to it. So I'm going to choose some blues, and I'm going to go in and do a little bit of shading and activate it with some water, add a little bit of green in the background as well, just to have a little bit more of a painterly look to it. Once it's dry, I'm going to take the Posca white paint marker and finally add some highlights. I hope you enjoyed day 11 and are experimenting with lots of different materials for your mixed media pages. Please tag me at DANIGIRLART. I would love to see what you're creating, and I will see you back here tomorrow on day 12. And for any of those of you that are struggling, I do hope that these videos have been offering you some calm moments of peace and a break from the outside world.